Okay, we are live. We're gonna jump into this until other people join and/or I get tired. All right, this is Anthony F here, Pantherware LLC, which is a new company name for the last time I did this podcast. Um, we're just gonna play catch up and then talk about current tools and maybe some mobile tech news. Maybe not because I'm by myself tonight. Okay, so where to start? Quick catch up. All right, so a year ago tomorrow, if that makes any sense. I did my last fake dev podcast. I have been asked during that time, am I going to start it back up? And I wasn't quite sure if I was because I just didn't have the time. I had just started learning code and I needed all of the brain cells I can get to understand it and focus on it and figure out what to do with it, and then learn what also was connected to that because it's just not the product, it's also promotion of the product, understanding the product, getting people to use the product, see how they used it so that you can refine it, asking people about it, a lot of things, a lot of energy needed for all this. And that's just in addition to the books that you still have to read to figure this all out. So it's been a year. I'm still broke, but it's fun. I learned a lot of things. I have a lot of users on almost 28 apps and games, so I think I learned something. And I just want to share with everybody else too that's starting the same thing, thinking the same thing that I thought. Hey, I can do this. So that was a quick catch up. I'm looking at my calendar here. If you go to pantherware.com on the right hand side, you'll see the notes or the calendar, and that's where the notes are for not only just my show, but there also be another show called Android Pops that should be on Thursday. We're talking about Android. Should be another show with another what's the word, co-host that will probably drop, and a couple shows down the line on the fake dev podcast, which will be having a co-host that is a growth hacker. Yeah, what's that? A lot of new fun things happening in the past year. New terminology we'll be discussing. So, current tools. So I had to break down and buy a MacBook. I didn't want to. I thought I could work with just Android Studio and Eclipse and Corona SDK as well as Game Salad just on a Windows device. But that's not true if you want to put a app or game in the iOS App Store, iPhone Store, iPad Store. Nope, you have to use a physical Mac device to do that. And for a while, I was using Mac in the cloud. I was paying for that, and that worked. It worked, but it was complex. Too many layers. You had to remote in, remember the password, and if you didn't do it in time, or if you left it dormant, you could lose that account and lose everything you did on it, and have to start all over again with the keys and the encryption, and that really became too much. So I figured it'd be cheaper if I just bought a MacBook. So I couldn't afford a brand new one. I went on Amazon and looked for stats that I needed. Fellow tech guy told me that really for a good, quick device that's enough for coding, a Core Duo, and as much RAM as you can get in there. So that's what I did. Went on Amazon, looked for a Core Duo 2, and I found one, a 2009 version. Bought it for around $200 to $300, and I just packed as much RAM as I could. Sadly, because the motherboard is so old, 2009, I think I only have maybe 4 gigs in this. Maybe. Might be just 2. I'll put in the show notes. Exactly. And it's working. I'm recording on it now. There's a slight delay with the camera, but it's been doing the job. What other current tools am I using? Well, since it's been a year, I've tested a lot of the game engines out there, Unity, Corona SDK, Game Salad, as well as the regular code IDEs. which is Eclipse for Java, as well as Android Studio. And then, of course, there's Xcode. I've been using Xcode now, learning about Swish as well. But really what it narrows down to is using Corona SDK. Because Corona SDK allows me to make an Android app, an Amazon app too, which technically is Android, as well as a Windows app, which I haven't really done yet because it's Windows. Who's buying the Windows games and apps? But it has a lot of different platforms that I can create my game on, which is great. So I've kind of consolidated all of my games and everything that was made on Android Studio before or Xcode, kind of just bought code that kind of mimicked what it already did and just put it on Corona SDK. So now most of my games are Corona SDK games, and it's easier for me to actually manipulate the code, build the code, create the code, as well as monetize the code. If you're wondering where am I getting my code from, I am not building my code or my games from scratch. If there is anyone out there that are building websites from scratch, give them a hearty handshake. You really don't have to do that nowadays. And the same is with games. There are code templates out there. There are developers who realize that they make more money selling the game code than actually putting the game on the marketplace. And that is correct. So I've been using CodeCanyon.com as my main source of Corona SDK games code. I've been buying it from there. There's other ones. If you just search Google, you'll come across them. It's Chuba Mobile. I'll probably put them in the show notes too. So that's my toolbox of code. I've been buying it from there. Really, it's about it. Other tools I'm using for promotion, Facebook. I'm using Facebook. I used Reddit once. It was okay. Google Ads and AdSense. Oh, I'm sorry, not AdSense. AdWords. Been using that. Haven't really had that much success with it because I haven't really jumped into it 100%. So I probably actually could have done better. Also using AdFly. Now, if you've been to websites and you get this full page ad come up first and give you 3 seconds, and then you go to the page, that's AdFly. And for some, it might seem like it's a little bit hackish, a little black hat, but it's not really, because I've seen King ads on there, and that's what made me do it. You know, King, the huge game maker, I've seen their ads on AdFly advertisements. So I said, wait a moment, if they can do it, I can do it. So when I'm testing my new games to see how people like them, if they like them right off the bat with the existing graphics in play, I throw them in an AdFly campaign and see how that goes. AdFly is great because you can set it according to the country, and you could just let it go and see what it does, which is kind of cool. You cannot connect the AdFly campaign straight to your Android, your Google Play pages. For some reason, Google, their page does not do well in iframes. I think that's the issue. So it'd be best to make landing pages for your games, which is another thing King has done. King has created a landing page, or they did, and they had all their games listed on the landing page. And that's where the AdFly campaign was directed to. Kind of blew my mind. So how do you make a landing page? Well, that's the other tool that I'm using. I'm using Matic, M-A-U-T-I-C. It's a free CRM program that allows you to create landing pages and email campaigns and things like that, and then monitor how each link is going, how each link is doing, what people are actually clicking on, and how each gamer is doing. It allows you to check the stats. Very, very good open source software. It's Matic. I'll put that in the software in the show notes too, if I remember. Also a very good tool. So I think those are the tools that I'm using right now. And I refined them, had a lot of tools, tried everything, kind of found out what really work with me, allow me to fall back on were these main tools. Also, I've tried, I forget what it's called, paid acquisition. There's a way to legally buy users that will download your game. It's kind of like, let's see, if you're using App for your monetization in your game, they have a section where you just pay for a click, cost per click, and the people see your ads and they more than likely download your ads. Well, this is the same way, only you're not doing it inside of an ad company. You're doing it outside of an ad company, where you pay a company and you get users per how much you pay. I was worried about this. Honestly, I wasn't sure if it was safe, it was legal. But now if you go to certain websites, not certain, but any website, it talks about apps and promotion and marketing, they'll tell you that this is a viable concept to really see how people like your game. It's like a testing bed, if you will. You pay for users to acquire or download your game in the usual areas, Google Play or the iOS or Amazon, and then they play it. And if they continue to play it, you get to see those stats and you know what works and what doesn't work. So pay to acquire users is a good way to test your product, see if it works. Something that I thought about. Forget. Oh, okay. So ads. I've used almost all of them. And if you do research, if you say, well, how about AdMob versus Chartboost? You won't see any up-to-date things about that. So I'm gonna try to make sure I write about that so that you can see the differences. This year, I'm really trying to push it hard. So maybe by a month or two, I have some stats for you to look at so that we can compare what is good and what isn't. Funny enough, years ago, it was Chartboost and RevMob and maybe Tap for Joy or Tap Joy and Tap for Tap. But believe it or not, now the best money maker for monetization in your games and apps is Google. AdMob. They seem to have the best CTR, I believe what it's called. Sometimes you'll get clicks on your ads, but not making any money. This happens. And we'll discuss this later down the road. Once I get a growth hacker on, he'll be able to explain this more. But really, right now, AdMob is the best. So I would look into, if you want to add ads, banner ads, and interstitials, which is a full-page ad in your games or apps, I would go with AdMob just because it's the ease of use, as well as they actually have the highest payment rates right now. You actually get paid. Of course, there's others. There's App Buddies, AppLovin, Flurry, which is bought by Yahoo, Chartboost, of course, RevMob. I mean, there's tons. There's tons out there, and you really just want to see what works for you. I mean, even now, Corona SDK has its own ads. I'm beta testing them now, see if they work. But there's so many ads out there, and really, excuse me, the best way to make money off of those is to jump on those when they're brand new. Because when they're brand new, the advertisers are paying a lot of money for their things to be advertised. And that way the rates will be high. And when somebody click on those ads or try to download the game as advertised, you make a lot of money. Usually as the time go along, the rates go down and you're making pennies. That's just how it goes. So try to jump on anything that looks new and legit, like Corona SDK, beta ads, and that way you'll keep the money going. That's really about it. Didn't plan to be by myself tonight, but I am. That's all I really have to say right now. Like I said, you'll see the events for our podcast at pantherware.com on the right-hand side, calendar events. You'll also see other events that are related to Philadelphia tech. Since I am in Philadelphia, you'll see all those things. And you're always welcome to ask me questions. There's a link on my website. There's, for questions. You can ask those questions, and I could talk to them or I could answer them in the preceding weeks. So I'm going to try to make this so that this podcast will actually be a podcast. You won't have to go to YouTube to watch this. You can go to YouTube if you want. I'm going to download the file, the video file from YouTube, and also make it so that you can play it in whatever podcast app you might use, Pocket Cast, Beyond Pod, anything that you might use, even the iPhone built-in podcast app. Okay, so this is it for now. I'm not sure how long we've been on. We've been live here. There's no time. Oh, I got 2 viewers. Cool. Thanks for watching. There'll be more. Please ask questions. This is really a B2B video. It's going to be other developers that are just starting out that have questions. And even if you have points and tips for me, please leave them. We can discuss it. I want to share the knowledge, because if you go online, there's not a lot of knowledge about app building, app promotion, app marketing. It's not a lot of that out there. And I want to share what I found, and hopefully it'll help somebody else, after me. All right. So this is Anthony F., Panther LLC.